Perfectionism is often worn like a badge of honor. It's the one flaw when we are asked about our negative traits in job interviews that we use because it is viewed as a positive trait to have, at least to some extent. Of course, we think it's positive because from the youngest age, this coping mechanism of not being able to deal with uncertainty, of rejections from others, translated itself in control over the tiniest detail of how we are perceived or how our work is being perceived. Who doesn't like a child who does things perfectly, with great report cards, and who doesn't cause any waves? A child is praised so much when she or he does something perfectly, being rewarded, showered with love, with praise, when they do something right or something perfect, but being punished, ridiculed, or shamed when doing something considered wrong. I honestly don't think that parents or teachers consciously reinforce perfectionism in children because they want them to grow up as control freaks, but I think they unconsciously reinforce that trait in children because it makes them easier to deal with. Unfortunately, as a result, for many of us, it has been ingrained in our psyche that we need for our own survival even to wear the societal mask deemed as perfect from societal standards to fit in, to be loved, to be accepted, to belong, and more importantly, to be valued. Perfectionism then becomes like a second skin, and that is not right. But as many themes that I talked about on this channel, letting go of perfectionism that became a personality trait is a journey. But how can we let go of the need to be perfect? How can we let go of that perfectionism and trade perfection for authenticity to become more comfortable within ourselves, more fulfilled and joyful? Welcome to Conscious Matters. I'm Melissa. On this channel, I talk about conscious living through empowerment and holistic wellness, especially mindfulness. I have my own struggle with perfectionism to this day. It's much better than what it used to be, but it's still remnant within me. As I was saying a minute ago, as a society, we think that perfectionism is actually a positive thing. It's the one flaw employers love about the employees. But in reality, perfectionism stems from thinking or feeling that we're not good enough or we're not lovable just the way that we are. So you have to present this perfect persona to have a sense of worth, love, and appreciation. In other words, there's a lot of shame underneath and maybe even some guilt. I think there's a lot of self-love and self-worth work to do with self when dealing with perfectionism. There is a necessity to differentiate between you as a being and you as a doer, as your work. Who you are is not what you do. I repeat, who you are is not what you do. Find value within yourself, no matter if you're doing something or not. For me, that part has been so hard to, first of all, understand, then accept, and lastly, embrace. But it has been huge in my inner transformation because I'm the type of person who needs to do something. Resting meant doing nothing, nothing meant you have no worth. Not finding value anymore. What kind of value was I bringing if I was not doing anything? Thank you, capitalism society, for that mindset. I mean, capitalism and also many other learned behaviors. But I was definitely the type of person who would not stop and stare at this success when they were done with something. I was already in my go-getter mindset and looking at the next thing. Doing that next thing while doing other things simultaneously. Because subconsciously, when you equate your worth to something outside of yourself, that's what happens. And it's so easy for your worth to be taken away from you, ripped apart, when it's not within yourself. From a personal standpoint, perfectionism can be suffocating. And I think perfectionism has layers of people pleasing too. Because why do you need things to be so perfect? Is it only for you, or is it because you kind of want to fulfill other people's expectations or you want to impress others? Is it really only about you when you think about perfectionism? Of course, there's a huge layer that is about you making yourself feel good because you did that thing right and you have control issues and so on and so forth. There's multiple layers about other people's expectations, other people's opinions and views about yourself. So it can indeed become suffocating to try to always please others by making yourself that perfect robot who does everything right every single day. And obviously we're not robots, so it can only last for so long. With time, pushing down your authenticity, pushing down your uniqueness, losing your own self, wearing that perfect persona and costume, even losing your own self-worth, your gifts and uniqueness to fit in a mold for the comfort of others will eventually become too much to bear. Realizing that years are passing by, but you are still not living as you, as your true self, that you are still not dropping the mask to express all parts of yourself, your multi-layeredness, your strength, your weaknesses, your quirks, all of the things and traits that makes you you. You owe it to yourself to be true to yourself, to stop hiding who you are and playing small. Because perfection can definitely be a double-edged sword. It can help so much in our studies, in our career. We reap the rewards of our perfectionism in these fields most of the time. But it can hold us back from so many opportunities as well. Not only opportunities that are more aligned with your authenticity, with your true self, because when you're a perfectionist, most of the time you're very much in your head, I'm guilty of that, and you don't start or you don't show what you have done until it has to be perfect. And the tricky thing is that the perfectionists rarely see their own selves as perfect. There's always something to tweak. There's always something to do better. There's always room for growth. There's always something. It never ends. And when it never ends, you never take that first step to get out of your comfort zone, to take that opportunity, to take that risk, and to make that change in your life. As perfectionists, I think we're delusional in a way that is not the traditional way of defining the word delusion. We're delusional because we often don't see things clearly. When our work is more than average, we think that is bad, is not good enough. We have to redo it or just quit it altogether. Even when our craft in the eyes of others is way beyond than average. But we always wait for the perfect delivery, the perfect time, to have the perfect skills, the perfect diplomas, perfect schools, perfect companies to work at, to start, to have these perfect qualifications and certifications before taking the leap. But the truth is, the perfect time is now. It's never gonna be perfect. We have to remind ourselves that perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. So if we keep on waiting to be perfect, to act perfect, to have the perfect circumstances, to be at the perfect time, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. We're gonna hold ourselves back. We're not gonna take our leap of faith. We're not gonna take a chance on ourselves, on our potential, and see what we are made of. We're always gonna stay in the back playing small and robbing other people from our gifts, our skills, and what we can bring to their own journeys as well. So we cannot be perfectionist and selfish. It doesn't work. And in reality is by starting in front of everyone, taking the risk of being ridiculous, of being a beginner, of failing, of not being perfect or seen as perfect, to not please everyone, is by facing our deepest fears of imperfection that we can progress, hone our skills, learn and do and be better. But we gotta get into that arena before everything is perfect. The motto that got me going through my own perfectionist tendencies is progress over perfection. You gotta bet on progress because perfection, once again, is an illusion. We cannot keep on beating ourselves down until we get it perfect all the time. First of all, it's really not kind to ourselves. Second of all, this is bullying one-on-one to do that. And thirdly, you will never actually get to perfection if you hold yourself back like that. So progress over perfection every single day, step by step. Release that idea that you have to be something that you're not, and let go of the concept of being a machine. You are not a machine. You're not. You're human. You're supposed to make mistakes. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to have it wrong sometimes. And that's okay. Give yourself some grace. You deserve it. You don't deserve to beat yourself up. You really don't. The world is harsh enough for that. You don't need to do that to yourself. I know that all of that is very much stuck in our subconscious, so we're not even aware most of the time of this kind of behavior that we express. And even when I was aware of that, I was aware that I had some control issues with myself and my work and my environment as well. Wanting to do things a certain way, having things put out a certain way, having crazy expectations out of myself. I mean, I guess it works to a certain point because it helps you push yourself further than what you think you're capable of. But it can, once again, double-edged sword. It can also bring yourself down so much and limit yourself as well. But despite being aware of all of that, I realized in the recent past that even though I relieved myself so much of the intensity of the perfectionism that I was embodying before, even in that self-development journey of mine, perfectionism was still here. And I think even as a general concept of the self-development niche or world, perfectionism is often at the forefront. This mindset of perfecting self, of being the most enlightened, being the best version of self. I've been guilty of that. Wanting to upgrade to get to the best perfect version of me. And it took me a while to understand that we're actually perfect the way that we are right now in that very moment in our journey. That doesn't mean that we'll stay this very version of ourselves for the rest of our lives. Of course not. That honestly be sad, but we'll keep on moving through time and evolve and have that room for growth along the way. So we will evolve to be perfect for another moment of our journey. But as you are right now, it's perfect for that moment right now. And of course, we can keep on healing, we can keep on improving, but I think there's a level of self-acceptance that cannot be bypassed. We cannot keep on nitpicking ourselves every single time and never be satisfied with who we are or what we do in this life, in this moment in time. So now I don't even desire to be the best version of myself, but I desire to be the healthiest and most empowered version of myself. To everything, there is a positive and a negative side. But when there is a level of acceptance, like I was saying before, plus we add that element of integration, we able to blend both together and make it work for our own unique self. When I realized how much of a perfectionist I am, I was like, okay, I'm gonna fix it, I'm gonna get rid of it, I'm gonna do better. But once again, that thinking is the one of a perfectionist, because why do you want to fix something to make it perfect? Because now you realize that perfectionism is not something that is perfect. So you want to switching tables to become perfect, but another way. I mean, mind blown. And I did a lot of work on myself, which I'm actually grateful for my past self to have done that, because I'm a zillion miles away from where I started with perfectionism. Let it go as much as I can to the perfectionist tendencies, especially in the professional area that I used to display. And I started to call myself a recovering perfectionist, which I love as a phrase. Is very soothing for myself. But until I interviewed 𝘃𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗲, the co-founder of Mindvalley, which is a super mega platform for personal development. They have all of the self-development superstars over there. You can check this interview on Conscious Matters podcast, available on all podcast platforms. That conversation that we had is all about perfectionism and how to overcome it, but still make it work for your own life. It was super interesting, and I'm pretty sure you will learn a lot if you're a perfectionist. So I was saying, I used to call myself that, recovering perfectionist, until that interview. And also having been called out a few months back, not so gracefully, by someone outside of work, so other areas of my life other than work, about my perfectionism. But still, I got the lesson out of it, because turns out perfectionism that I thought I had mastered, at least in the professional life, to the biggest extent that I can. Once again, nobody's perfect, so obviously it's not like someone who's never been a perfectionist, but it's so much better. But turns out, as I was saying, it popped out in other areas of my life, and I did not even realize I was such a perfectionist in other areas of my life. I just thought I had high standards, and that was it. And high standards that I considered myself normal, but it was just labeled as high standards by others. Since then, I realized that we cannot be recovering perfectionists. We can tame our perfectionism, but it's something that 99.9% of the time it comes from childhood. So we grew up doing everything to that point, to whatever age you are right now, with that habit. And once again, it's not all bad or all good. And made me aware that indeed I removed perfectionism as a coping mechanism for myself. So when I was using it as my own self-worth for people-pleasing purposes, so on and so forth, so I did that. I managed to remove that as a coping mechanism, but turns out I did not remove it as a personality trait. And that's okay. That's okay, because perfectionism, once again, is not all good or all bad. It's something that we picked up from childhood. It became part of your personality, and that's okay. I realized that as long as I'm aware of it and I'm able to cut it out or harness it to the best of my ability before it becomes unhealthy, detrimental, or limiting to me, and instead use it to benefit me, it's all good. It's all good. It's okay to embrace that not full-on positive trait about myself. I don't have to crush that part of me, but integrate it smartly. So I think that I'm gonna stop calling myself a recovering perfectionist from now on and embrace it mindfully instead. Because once again, nobody's perfect. Even when perfectionism is part of your personality. And that's okay. We gotta release the guilt. We gotta release the shame. There is no need for more illusion of perfection than what our society has already built. What is needed is you, is your unique self, your singular way of thinking, your one-of-a-kind personality, your unique quirks, your weird ideas. That's what the world needs. Express your authentic, multidimensional self freely. Let go, release. Only you can judge yourself, but don't judge too harshly. Be kind and fair with yourself. The world is already harsh enough. Give yourself some grace, some compassion, some kindness, and some softness. It's okay to be a perfectionist, but not to the point of hurting your own self. Share in the comments if you have that same perspective on perfectionism. And if not, please share in the comments what is your own perspective on perfectionism. Is it something that we need to ditch completely, or is it something that we should actually embrace and work with it as much as we can? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, stay true, keep showing up for yourself, and let your soul lead the way.